Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wicomico County Council Forum tonight. My name is Jenny Pastasak. These three organizations have been putting on candidate forums. The goal of these forums is simple: to educate and inform citizens about the candidates and issues facing them in November, and to promote positive civil discourse in the discussion of those issues. These three organizations believe in bipartisanship, not hyper-partisanship. Best serves the citizens and our community. It is with that spirit that we welcome those of you here tonight and watching on PAC 14, and also that we welcome our candidates tonight. Just an announcement, the next forum will be October 25th at 6 p.m. at Guerrieri Assembly Hall, and this forum will feature the candidates for the Wicomico Board of Education. We also want to thank PAC 14 and the Event Tech Services here at SU for being here tonight to help make this happen. We do have a few rules that I'll go over very briefly. We will have no opening statements from the candidates. We'll go right into the questions. But each candidate can introduce him or herself when they answer their first question. There will be audience questions throughout asked by our panelists. Each answer by any candidate should not exceed 90 seconds. I'll have a timer up here, folks, for you, and I'll let you know when that 90 seconds is up. The panelists reserve the right to ask follow-up questions, and each candidate will have 1 minute for closing comments at the end, and we'll let you know when that time comes. I'd like to introduce our panelists that are here tonight from those three organizations. Asking the questions tonight will be Mike Dunn, President and CEO of Greater Salisbury Committee, Bill Chambers, President and CEO of the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce, and Sandy Pope, Executive Director of PACE. With us this evening, we have our candidates from District 1, Shani Shields and Kyle Cole. Representing District 2, Jeff Merritt and Talana Watson. Our at-large folks, John Cannon, James Wynn, Brad Gillis, and Megan Alton. Our representatives from District 3, 4, and 5 kind of gave up. They don't have an opponent, so they're sitting out tonight to give these folks some more time for question and answers. District 3, Shane Baker, District 4, Josh Hastings, and District 5, Joe Holloway. And we're going to get right to business with our first question.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. This is a question for the at-large candidates. Wicomico County's zoning ordinances are around 50 years old. Do you think the council should support expanding the zoning options available in the county and/or rezone certain areas?
Mr. Cannon?
Certainly. Thank you, John Cannon. I recognize the role. I think that we're pretty much at a good place right now in Wicomico County. The one thing I think we need to try to do is look at our tier maps in the ag district to see whether or not, how they fall in line, whether or not they are the best we can do in Wicomico County for the ag district. Outside of that, we don't have our mouth certification because of that. So we want to try to get that in order with our comprehensive plan. And we do a comprehensive plan every 10 years, so I think that would fall in line with it as far as coming out with specific guidelines. I don't really see where that's necessary on those type of ordinances. It was suggested at another forum that maybe you look at having the agricultural districts separated into 5 different districts, maybe based on different guidelines as far as the amount of development you might want there, et cetera. But I think that could also cause a lot of concerns where, as I said at the other forum, if you have, particular guidelines set on one ag district and then you change them across the street from someone else, you're going to, arbitrarily, you're going to really upset some people. So where we are right now, I think, is in a good place, and I think we should stay right there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wynn?
Could you just repeat that? I couldn't hear the full question.
Wicomico County's zoning ordinances are around 50 years old. Should the council support expanding the zoning options available in the county and/or rezone certain areas?
Like John said, we should look at the zoning because, I mean, it has been 50 years. It's been a very long time. But we do need to be careful on when we rezone, if we do the rezoning, because this is an agricultural community and we want to make sure that we protect our farmers whenever we look over this. And if we do make changes, we need to make sure that it's fair for our farmers because this is a farming community. And we just want to make sure that our farmers are well represented, and we don't want to prevent them from being able to farm.
Thank you. Ms. Houghton?
Obviously, 50 years is a little bit too long for us to go without addressing our zoning issues. I believe we referenced this at the environmental forum that was hosted a couple weeks back. And I just want to circle back to my very same answer, which is we can never be too specific with our language. We can never be too up to date with our language. I don't see us addressing these issues as an ag versus industrial issue. It is honestly for the best. It's better for our residents if we are addressing these ordinances and bringing them as up to code as we can possibly.
And Mr. Gillis?
90 seconds to answer that question? All right. There's a lot of time. Thank you all for having me tonight, and appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of PAC, PACE, Greater Salisbury, Chamber of Commerce, D3, all these great candidates. Zoning in 50 years, definitely agree we could be doing better, but zoning is a component of a greater issue I think that we can address through our comprehensive plan, through our priority funding areas, and also using an overused term, but smart growth. So we can grow within our urban core and we can continue to preserve our agricultural heritage within our community through zoning. And if I remember correctly, our zoning and comprehensive plan is due for a refresh, which would be in one of our candidates' terms in this next four years. So look forward to the opportunity to help and work through the comprehensive plan and refresh the zoning, and also reevaluate the priority funding areas. I appreciate your time and look forward to the further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next question?
This is for all of you. The Wicomico County revenue cap is rarely ever evaluated at the county government level. What would you do, if anything, as a council person to bring some scrutiny to the revenue cap and help determine if it's still proper public policy?
We'll start right here and go down the line. Ms. Shields?
I think that we talked about it when I ran for election about 4 years ago, that I really believe that the revenue cap should be revisited. It seems that it's caused a handicap, especially for the Board of Education, and for promoting education for our children, we need to scrutinize the budget. I've been part of a budget where we did line by line. It was terrible, but we had to do it, and it was a learning process for me. But I really think we do need to revisit the revenue cap, especially if it helps with our education. I haven't been, up on the revenue cap, but I know it's caused a problem, and I think we need to address it.
Thank you. Mr. Cole?
So the revenue cap right now, I believe we do need to take a visit and look at it, but not to raise it, but possibly lower it. Right now, we have so much money extra sitting in the reserve funds here in the county, also from the federal government over COVID. And with the inflation today, what we need to do is start helping out the citizens in Wicomico County, help put money back in their pockets. If we raise the revenue cap, that means more taxes that's going to be coming out of our citizens. And what we need to do is take a look to see what we're using the taxes truly for, and put it in appropriate divisions, such as our schools, our public safeties, our roads. But as far as changing it and raising it, I'm against it. I believe we may have to just look at it and possibly lower it.
Thank you. Ms. Watson.
Good evening. The revenue cap question, I realize that when speaking of the revenue cap, the first thought that comes to everyone's mind is the raising of taxes. But actually, before even considering, you always want to consider what the vision is for Wicomico County as far as economic development. When we consider the maximization of our land use, when we consider various other factors that will affect the growth in our county, we want to be honest and real as to the resources that we have. And yes, I would not want my taxes to be raised. I would want us first to look at ways that we could more efficiently utilize the funds that we already have to maximize the efficiency and the effectiveness and the growth in our county. So I would first want to look exactly at where we stand as a county economically before even talking about the raising of taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Merritt?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Merritt, and my research on the revenue cap shows that there's a lot of moving parts to it, and I can do this in a lot less than 90 seconds. I would be against anything that would negatively impact homeowners or businesses by any way of raising fees, taxes, or anything else. But I do agree with most of the other panelists here. We do need to look at it. The economy is different now than it was 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it's a moving goalpost. We need to be able to adapt and fluctuate for the betterment of our citizens.
Mr. Cannon?
Thank you. Michael, can we have 5 minutes? Just you and me? Okay. Michael and I have had a lot of conversations on this. So that people recognize when you're talking about the revenue cap that we have in Wicomico County right now means that we cannot increase our revenue by more than 2% from the prior year, our property tax revenues by more than 2% to the prior year, or the consumer price index, whichever is less. So right now, 2% is the number, not the CPI. I do recognize the fact that maybe we could be using the wrong metrics when it comes to the CPI. There is a government metric, as I understand it, and then there's a basic consumer one, and we may not be using the right one. It may be CPIU or something. And I get that, but I'm really afraid to go down that road. You start changing things, people start to get a little nervous. You never know, maybe know where it might end up. I'm in favor of the revenue cap. I always have been. You know, some people will say, well, you know, if we'd have a revenue cap, the county would have, we'd be so much more better off. We'd have $50 million more just over the last 5 or 10 years. And of course, I always say, well, right now, look at where that $50 million is. That $50 million is in the pockets of the taxpayers, where it should be. It's not in the government. And heck, we have a $70 million reserve, $50 million unrestricted. Wicomico County is doing really well. Even with the tax cap, 1 year we were $17 million over in our taxes, and the county council unilaterally lowered the tax rate by 1 cent because we were doing very well. And I get it. We've got 8% inflation now, right? We have 5% interest rates. But we've been in those situations before. I think Wicomico County is so strong. We've been so fiscally conservative for so long.
Mr. Cannon, your time's up.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you very much.
Serious for the 5 minutes.
Thank you.
5 minutes.
Was that 90 seconds?
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes. Yeah, I'm in favor of the revenue cap as well. I want to put more dollars in our pockets and less in the government's pockets. I believe that our quality of life matters more than the government's quality of life. What I would propose that we do is look at how much we get taxed already. It's 60% of our money when you get done adding it up. If we raise our property taxes, that's only going to benefit the government. So the only thing I can think we can do is keep the revenue cap, get a grant writer, go to DC, go to Annapolis. Let's get some of our money back because this, they take a lot of it and they spend it on projects that don't benefit us up down here in Wicomico County. And all I can say is let's go get some of our money back so we can fund projects like our water and sewer, so we can fund projects like building new bridges and fixing our potholes. If we can get more grants, we can take that money that's in our budget right now and reallocate it in other areas. So what I'd like to do is do more with less. I don't think we need to change our revenue cap. I mean, if you look at our budget, we have $50 million in a surplus, and we're going to make more money next year. So we're making plenty of money as a county. We're balancing the budget. You know, I do know we need to raise salaries. I've talked to a lot of people out knocking in the community, and there's a lot of people hurting right now. They're about to triple some of the rent in some of these subsidized homes, and right now they can't even afford groceries. So what's going to happen if we change the revenue cap? I mean, that's quite not fair. Just talking to a girl, she works at the
Mr. Nguyen,
for the,
your time's up.
Sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Alton?
So I would like to point out that the revenue cap was installed back when I was in grade school. And it's been quite a bit since it has been brought back to the community's attention. And I'd be remiss to mention that I think that we need, as a community, to come together. Now, there's what I personally think about the revenue cap. I think we're leaving a lot of money off the table because we are not coming to this as a community to have a conversation, maybe not saying completely get rid of it, but maybe tweak it, readdress the language that we're currently seeing with that. But this will be a community discussion. The people you see here on the panel right now are not going to be the ones solely making this decision. This is going to have to come from the people, and if the people are ready for that, I'd be happy to have a conversation on it.
And Mr. Gillis?
I think I'd like that 10 minutes now. The revenue cap continues to be a point of discussion because it's worth talking about. It has been a topic almost every single election that has been adopted, and it's challenging. The revenue cap affects our bond rating. The revenue cap continues to lower our tax rate and passes the savings on to homeowners and business owners and commercial real estate owners. It has also created reserves for us as well. What it has not done for us is fund education and fund significantly above maintenance of effort. So one of the challenges I think that we have is a community dialogue. And as a person who has a primary residence in Wicomico County, I take advantage of the homestead tax credit. That allows me to not have an increase in assessable value, which keeps my tax rate low. My assessable tax rate low. Should we look at a tax cap versus a revenue cap? I believe that would be a discussion worth having. It could be a different formula and still restrict government spending and create a win-win compromise so that we can fund education and also keep residential taxpayers' bills low through the homestead tax credit.
Thank you. Next question?
That was my timer.
No worries.
Yeah, good job.
So this is a question for the District 1 and District 2 candidates. What is the most pressing issue in your districts?
We're going to change up the order a little bit here, and we'll start with District 2. Mr. Merritt?
Perfect timing, right after the water. Thank you, Mike. Wow. Okay. I believe the water sewer master plan is #1 on the hit parade in District 2, not only there but all over the county. That plan has been in play for, 50 years, 60 years, and we still have yet to put a shovel in the ground. So we need to move that forward because it's affecting property values, the environment, and a whole lot of other things. And I will yield the rest of my 90 seconds to Mrs. Watson.
Thank you. I am in agreement with my opponent that the most crucial thing in District 2, from speaking to those who live there, would be the water and sewer. And we're reminded of the fact that it's been several decades that we as a county have known that we were going to have an issue with our water and sewer, and we have not addressed it. So the time is here that we should address the issue of the water and sewer so that it is affordable for those persons that own homes could take advantage of it. And it brings us back to also, the environmental issue. Water, everyone should have the right to clean water. And that is something that we should address. It should be a priority, not just for District 2, but for other areas of the county.
Thank you. Mr. Cole?
Well, of course, Jeff and Sana both hit it on the head with the water and sewer, but talking to people in District 1, as well as other parts of like the city of Salisbury and around, one of the big issues is affordable housing. We have a major crisis right now. Everybody's income's low. The market is super high. Can't afford to live anymore. So I would fight have affordable housing, but also another thing is defending our environment, defending the health of our citizens. Major issue recently, especially in District 2, has been the DAF tanks. There's also talks about the expansion of the landfill. I looked at the maps of the properties around the landfill. There's nowhere to expand it, and it just keeps getting higher and higher. So we need to take a look at that. Of course, it affects District 1 majorly because it's right in the middle of District 1. So definitely look at that. And another thing is the flooding. We have some major low-lying areas, and our drainage is horrible. In the town of Hebron, for one, they're starting to address it. They're using HARPA funds for it. But city of Salisbury, there's a lot of African-American neighborhoods that are getting flooded out because the drainage is not properly maintained. So I would make sure that there's somebody ahead of the department and make sure that the flooding is taken care of once for all.
Thank you. Ms. Shields?
I agree that affordable housing is one of the concerns. Also, I think communication is a major concern with our people, the citizens that live in the area. The stakeholders are not even being contacted. And as DAF, as he mentioned, the storage tanks, we need, when we pass laws, ordinances or anything, we need to have all the stakeholders at the table. Just don't pass a law and then the people read about it in the newspaper. That is a very, very bad, it's a bad way to handle things. I think that affordable housing, Wicomico County hasn't built affordable housing. I think one of the projects they did build was the Blue Street townhouses. I don't think they call them Blue Street townhouses anymore. But we have a growing senior population, we have growing young families, and we also have a growing homeless problem. And I think that the county should address, also partner maybe with the city and on how we can address the homelessness. Environmental issues are a concern, and he mentioned flooding. If you're in a 100-year plain, you're going to have flooding. And the city of Salisbury did improve their drainage, but you're still going to continue to have a flooding issue. And that's been for years and years and years and years. I experienced that where water came 5 feet when I lived on Germania Circle. And we had money, but we couldn't use it because some of the property owners did not want to sell their property. So that is an issue.
Thank you, Ms. Shields.
Okay.
Next question.
This question again is for the at-large candidates. During City of Salisbury council meetings, the mayor has a seat at the end of the council table. Do you think the county executive should have a formal seat at the county council table during meetings, or should he or she remain in the audience, as is now the practice?
We will start with you, Mr. Gillis.
Yes.
Okay.
2 seconds.
Ms. Houghton?
I agree with Mr. Gillis here. I would love to see some more collaboration between our county executive and county council. I think currently that's the reason why we have kind of seen a slow growth and slow progress with a lot of the projects we currently see going on. So I'd be thrilled to bring them to the council level with a more formal seat, allow them the opportunity to answer questions and collaborate with us a little bit more closely.
Mr. Nguyen?
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. During the City of Salisbury council meetings, the mayor has a seat at the end of the council table. Do you think the county executive should have a formal seat at the county council table during meetings, or should he or she remain in the audience, as is now the practice?
You know, that's a very good question. I've never actually thought of that. You know, you bring up a good question. I have no idea. You know, we'd have to sit down and really think about that before we go ahead and give a lot of authority to the executive. We have no problem with having the executive there, but you know, this is a very good question. I never did think about that. Would it be something to consider? Absolutely. Should we keep the two branches separate? We probably should think about that because there's a reason why we have two different branches of government. So this would have to be something that I'd have to think about before I give an informed decision. But I appreciate the question, and I'm sure John Cannon, he's got a great answer because he usually does.
I wrote it down for you. I think without a question, the county executive is always welcome to have a seat at in the council chambers. It helps with a productive exchange. You know, in many circumstances, I know a lot of issues will come across the table with the county council as a whole, and you know, having another insight is always welcome. The executive used to have a chair at the table where our attorney sits now, but there was a period of time, I wasn't on the council at the time, where the council began to take pot shots at the executive, and the executive was like, I'm just not going to do this. I don't need the headache. I'm running the county. I have my job to do. I don't need to, you know, sit in a room and you know, butt heads. And just very matter of fact said, it's not going to do it. So that's why it stopped. And I understand. I get it. And I think it was a responsibility of both parties to bring that all back together again and to create more cooperation. And I would certainly like to see that without a doubt. A lot of times it brings a very interesting perspective to what the council's working on. And I think it would move some initiatives forward a lot faster. In many instances, the council, if they feel as if what the executive is doing is not moving fast enough, then we begin to do it ourselves. That's the one tool that the council has, and we do it publicly to bring attention to the public that this needs to be addressed. I think if the executive were there more often, the executive would recognize the importance of that and what it meant to the council and to the public, and you'd see things moving along much more efficiently. So yes, welcome it 100%.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Chambers?
Yes, this is for District 2 candidates only. What do you think the role of the county council is as a part of the executive/legislative model that exists here in Wicomico County?
Ms. Watson?
I believe the role of the county council is legislative as far as interpreting the laws that are before us as a county and making sure there is accountability and that they are followed through on. They also have the role of, when it comes to the finances of the county, to make sure, for example, funds that have been appropriated have been used for that purpose. So they act more as a monitoring function. And I would like to say, in answer to the previous question, as far as the role of the county executive being a part or sitting at the table, I think that's an excellent idea. As a citizen of Wicomico, I would love to see that the county council and county executive were working together for the benefit of Wicomico County.
Thank you. Mr. Merritt?
Thank you. The county council is legislative, and I agree that we need to have more collaboration between the council and the executive. The council has to determine how to apply the budget evenly across the board, how it's going to most positively impact the most number of people in the county?
Thank you. Our next question, Mr. Dunn.
This question is for everyone. Do you think Wicomico County is economically healthy and successful? If you think it is, please share why. If you think it's not, please share what you would do to make things better, and please be specific. Thank you.
We'll start with you, Ms. Shields.
Well, I think I read where we have 4 or 5 companies of $3.9 billion in funds that when they operate their salaries. I think it could be better because right now people are finding it hard to find people to work. And I also talked to Dave Ryan. He said one of the problems in economics is finding workers that are trained. And I believe that we need to teach our children subjects to take. Everybody's not going to SU or UMES, but they need workforce training. So when companies do come, they would have workers that could work in their business. And I think that's part of economics. But if you look at the housing market in Sassafras, Thomas Rourke's old property out by where we live, there's, I know about 100 houses. I haven't counted them yet. But someone's buying houses economically, and the houses start at $300,000. So I'm thinking that we're doing pretty good. I think we're doing pretty good. It could be better. Of course, everything could be better, but people have to want to work also. If you're talking about inflation, how are you going to talk about the cost of goods? You need to go to work.
Thank you, Ms. Shields. Mr. Cole?
So I agree with Ms. Shields. I think the county right now is in a good place when it comes to finances. Could we do a little better spending our finances? Absolutely. We need to start investing in our schools more, invest into our employees so we start retaining them. Because right now we have a major staff shortage out on a government level. We also need to invest into our county as a whole. Our roads, and especially our back roads down on the west side of the county, are in horrible shape. Our properties are just getting trashed, and there's so many ran down homes, so we need to start looking and spending more into revamping our county without costing taxpayers any more dollars, since we are in a good place as we are right now.
Thank you. Ms. Watson?
I believe Wicomico is in a good place, but I also believe that we could be in a better place. I believe that one of our main challenges is to actually sit down at the table with the collaboration of the county council, the business community, which is including, of course, farmers and poultry. It's a part of anyone that has a role in the infrastructure of the county to actually sit down and come up with a vision, an economic development vision for this county, and which would help us have direction as to what kind of short-term and long-term goals we would have. One of the things that's always impresses me, I know I was educated here in Wicomico County, and I was always so amazed that there was a lot of focus spent on teaching us or educating us from K through 12, and we were to go out and be responsible citizens, get good jobs, but nobody really spent time to teach us about finances, financial literacy, how things really work when we look at the large picture. And I think as a municipality, as a county, we would do better if the citizens could actually buy into the financial vision for the county. And we do that by having a marketing strategy so that everybody buys into it.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. Mr. Merritt?
So I believe the county is healthy. I think Mr. Cannon pointed out a few minutes ago that we've got a budget surplus somewhere north of $50 million. So that sounds pretty healthy to me. I think the residents and businesses in this county are definitely struggling. There's more people that are food insecure. We know about the workforce shortages. I think those are the issues that we need to address, get people back into the workforce, and maybe using some of that county money to make that happen.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon?
Thank you. I think the county's in great shape. If you look at just what we've done, you know, we're always, with the Board of Education, we're always giving the maintenance of effort. There's one year where we even gave more than that. Look at what we've done in the capital, you know, as far as our capital expenses are concerned. It wasn't that long ago. We have a new Bennett High School, new Bennett Junior High School, and a new West Side Elementary. Beaver Run is opening now. Mardella, look at the work we're doing in Mardella. We're making huge capital investments in Wicomico County, and I think that's a big part of what you have to pay attention to as to whether or not we're delivering the services, and the county's in great shape. We have a new sheriff's building that we're working on. That's a $40–50 million investment. That's because the county is growing and the county's doing fiscally responsible job. Warwick Community College, a new applied technology center there. Dr. Hoy's doing a great job in Warwick Community College, and we're helping to fund that. If you look at the airport, my gosh, what's with the airport? We've got extended runway. We have a new drone building. We have a new ARF truck. We're going to have a new ARF building. We're going to invest in engineering, an engineering class there. We have a water line to the airport. We're going to get fiber optics to the airport. This is all stuff, these are real tangible improvements. And we also have a large reserve. We have a very large reserve. Recreation in parks. We have a new inclusive park. We have field 7.5. Steve Miller is doing everything. I broke there's a groundbreaking for the pickleball courts yesterday. So in every avenue, I think Wicomico County is doing great. Not only that, just our reserves aside, we just lowered our tax rate again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yeah, he said a whole lot of good things that are happening, and I couldn't agree more. But we can always do better. I think we can lower our income tax. I mean, we're the highest in the state. I know from some doctors and some teachers that live in Worcester County that travel to our county to work because of the income tax. They want to save money. And another thing we can do is, why don't we pass a bill to give businesses a tax break on property taxes to open up business in our county? Why can't we do that? I mean, that sounds like a pretty good idea, because we need to be able to bring in these businesses, like, you know, just any business that employs a vast amount of people for a higher salary than the average income in this county. And the average person makes, what, $30,000 a year in this county? And that's not living to me. The county's doing good, but a lot of the residents, you know, they could be making more money. And that's why I offer that idea, to bring in more businesses, because we need to bring up our salaries. And the way to do that is to bring in higher paying businesses. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, James brought up some good points. So I think to date, the county has done a great job economically. However, we can always raise that bar. We can always do better. We can always plan better for our future. But really, I take a look at our people to identify if we're doing well economically as a county. And currently, our people are suffering. So currently, 30% of Wicomico County residents live at the ALIS level, which means they're asset limited. You know, these are the people who live paycheck to paycheck, who, you know, if they miss a paycheck, they miss rent. And 13% of that are at poverty level. So I would really like to see the county address and bring some more policies in to bring that number back down to a state average. So currently Maryland is at 9%. We're like 4 or 5 above the state average. Bring that back down. And to address that, I see us working closer towards our Board of Education. So getting our students ready for the success, whether that be college prep, whether that be career readiness, and getting them prepped for the workforce development opportunities that we can bring into the county.
I've never gone at a ride-along before, and I went with a state trooper and also a sheriff, and a thought came to me that they risk their lives every day for us, and as a potentially elected official, why should we not risk for them as well when we sit behind this table? And while I think we have a lot of great things going on in our community, and no doubt we do, we could be doing so much more. We have had a failure to lead and have had a failure to risk in this community. We are the capital of the Eastern Shore, and we should start acting like it. We currently have a water and sewer crisis. We have a human resources crisis within Wicomico County. We fund our education at some of the lowest in the state. We are not prioritizing, in my opinion, correctly. And we should be doing that with consensus on the council, and we should be doing that 7-0 vote every single time with an aligned vision. So in summary, we're doing great, but we could be doing so much better.
Thank you. Our next question?
This is our first audience question, and we'll ask this of the candidates from Districts 1 and 2. In the past, the county council and county executive have not always had the best relationship. There will be a new executive. How do you plan to keep a good relationship with whoever the winner is?
I think the first thing you do is respect and treat people the way you want to be treated. You don't come in, we have a party system in the county council. So what we need to do is put the party behind us and work for the community as a whole. Once we do that, I think we can work together. And one of the ways I agree with the county executive sitting at the table, treated with respect. And I know in the city, the president would always set the agenda along with the mayor. So I think the president of the council, whoever that may be, need to be communicating with the county executive at all times and bring the information back to the county council. And respect and treating people the way you want to be treated is the way to go, not by party, but by respect.
Thank you. Mr. Cole?
So I have a relationship with all three candidates running for county executive. I know all of them. What we need between the county council and the executive is a balance of power. We shouldn't be telling them how to do their job. They shouldn't be telling us how to do our jobs. What we need to do is build a relationship, like Ms. Shields said, no matter what the party is, work together. I'm okay with working across the table. I have friends that are Democrats, independents. No matter who you are, I'm going to work with you. So we definitely need to keep a relationship between the two, because that is the only way to officially run this county for the citizens of this county.
Thank you. Ms. Watson?
I am in agreement with the previous speakers with some issues in that communication is key between the council and the executive. And above all, the main priority should be that they are elected officials there to represent the people for the people. We are assuming that there are all adults in the room. So we should be focusing on what's good for the people of Wicomico County and putting aside all differences to work out and obtain positive solutions. And when we see that our people are doing well, that is the true measurement of how well the county is doing.
So I heard, being the last guy in line here, I hear words like respect and collaboration and working together and working across the aisle and party lines and all that. And that's the ticket, folks. We have to worry about what is going to be the best thing for the people. And being able to sit down at a table or in the council chambers or wherever and have a respectful, cool-headed conversation with each other and understand that we might not get what we personally want, but that's okay, as long as we keep what's in the best interest of the citizens of Wicomico County front and center. That's all that needs to matter.
Thank you. Our next question, Bill?
Yes, question for the at-large candidates. In your role as a county council member, this is an audience question. In your role as a county council member, what will you do to attract and retain businesses, especially small businesses?
We'll start at the end. Mr. Gillis?
Goes back to the previous statement. We are the capital of the Eastern Shore, and we should act like it. By doing that, we will attract and retain business by funding above maintenance and effort, by working diligently to solve problems within our community. We will attract talent. We will retain talent. By ensuring that our environment and our local rivers and creeks are of the utmost health, we will continue to retain and attract talent. It starts at the top. We have, again, a our resources issue within our county. We need to address that. We need to field the team right now within Wicomico County in order to, again, continue to attract and retain talent. We also need to make sure that we provide governmental services to the most, most efficient way possible. And right now, again, touring through the county and hearing from local EMS and fire providers, they can't provide the service. The folks are not there. We need to help those folks. So I think through funding education, having a vibrant community to live, work, and play in, having a quality environment, and also a high quality of life.
Thank you. Ms. Houghton?
Yes, like Mr. Gillis said here, we are the capital of the Eastern Shore, and that's something that we should be increasingly proud of. So Wicomico County is home to the second largest airport in the state of Maryland and the second largest port, and those are big things when it comes to businesses and attracting business. I think first and foremost, something that maybe we should prioritize moving forward as a county is being proactive in that engagement instead of waiting for these businesses to hear about us, finding them ourselves, going out into these communities and showing them just how amazing this community is, not just to have a business, but to raise a family. And I think for us to be able to do that, we, like Mr. Gillis said, focusing on bettering our education, making sure that our schools are very well funded, and making sure that this is a community that we are proud to boast of here on the Eastern Shore.
Thank you.
Could you repeat that for me again?
Yes, certainly. In your role as a county council member, what will you do to attract and retain businesses, especially small businesses?
So I am a small business owner, and I can tell you the thing that's going to attract more people like myself is if we lower our income tax. We're the highest in the state. I think it's 3.2%. And I think we can lower that, maybe cut it in half. I don't know. We're going to attract a lot of people. Another way we can do that is if we attract bigger businesses. Like I just touched on this a few minutes ago, we just passed the Horizons bill, which attracts developers to build in downtown to renovate buildings. Why can't we do the same thing for businesses, for larger businesses, and give what that is it gives them 10 years of lower taxes, and they're allowed to, not have to pay the full amount of taxes. So it allows them to build these big buildings like the one that's getting built downtown. Why can't we do the same thing for businesses in our own county? And what that's going to do is that's going to create bigger jobs, better jobs. And those people are going to want to renovate their bathroom. They're going to want to renovate their deck. They're going to want to renovate their house. They're going to want to put a roof on. They're going to want to spend a lot of money because now they have money. So that's going to really energize the base of income for the entire county. And what's that going to do is it's going to double our income on tax. And we're going to make a lot of money as a county. And to make money, we need to lower our taxes and give the people back its money so it stays in our pockets.
Thank you.
I think the responsibility of government is to create an environment for business, a good environment for business. I think we're trying to do that in Wicomico County. And what exactly does that mean? That means, just as what I had talked about before, is all the investments that Wicomico County has made businesses that come here, their CEOs, the owners of the businesses, really one of the first things they want to know is, what's it going to be like for my family? So you have to have a good educational system in place, and that's important. That's why it's important to have the schools upgraded as we've been doing that. You also want to make sure you have a good workforce development. That's our biggest challenge. And Ray Hoy, Dr. Hoy does an excellent job with Warwick Community College in trying to make sure that he actually literally, he goes to businesses and says, what do you need? Because what we'll try to do is establish a program so that we can create the employees that you need to make your business successful. And that's another tool that we have, quality of life. And no CEO is going to want to move here if they don't feel safe. We have an excellent sheriff's department that guarantees a high quality of life. We have recreation and parks department that's guaranteeing a high quality of life. I think that's also important. We have to keep the airport in Wicomico County. Do you think businesses are going to want to come here when their CEOs or their administrators have to drive to Baltimore or have to drive to Washington to get a flight out of town? Not going to happen. So it's very important, the investments that we're making. James had talked about the Horizon program. That is an initiative that we took, and that got to be controversial, believe it or not, but it was tax benefits that we were giving on property taxes on a graduated scale to encourage businesses to invest. Now, that's a $10 million investment as a minimum, but there's so many ancillary businesses that will benefit from that. From a business perspective, that was for residential. From a business perspective, we
Mr.
do
Cannon,
have the enterprise.
your time's up. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we have, yeah.
The next question from the panelists?
This question is for all the candidates, and it's also a question that we asked of the county executive candidates. Wicomico County is the only county in Maryland that does not offer some sort of tax differential, also known as a tax set-off, to its residents and municipalities. If elected to the council, is this something you think should be addressed, and why or why not?
We'll start with you, Ms. Shields.
Well, this thing on?
It's not on.
It's on? Okay. I am for tax differential. I lived in this city, owned a house in this city, and we're double taxed. I would want to visit that. I support looking at that because many people in the county do not want to be annexed to the city because of the double taxing. And we talk about taxing people in the county. Just imagine living in the city and being double taxed. So we do need to revisit that tax differential.
Thank you.
I agree with Ms. Shields. We definitely should not be double taxing. That's part of what I said earlier about putting money back into our citizens' pockets. I live in the town of Hebron. We don't have a police department. So yes, we should be getting taxed for the 911 division of getting the sheriff's office to respond out there. But those that live in the town of Fruitland, Salisbury, Delmar, Pittsville, they all have their own police department. They shouldn't be paying twice for police taxes if they're already paying it once through the town. So we definitely need to revisit it, and those towns that have the services that are getting taxed should definitely not be double taxed.
Swanson?
I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that there are thousands and thousands of homeowners who are going to have issues with their water sewer. And the problem is imminent, it's here now. And so then comes the issue as far as annexation with local municipalities. So when considering that issue and the challenge of it, I think visiting and looking at a tax differential is a good idea.
I agree that people should not be double taxed, especially now. The last thing people need is another bill to pay. We have two pieces of property in the city, but we live in the county. We pay both taxes, but I can't vote in the city because I don't live there. So I agree we need to look at it.
I think it would be good to review the tax differential. We've already done it once. We had a report that was in 2010, somewhat inconclusive, to be quite honest with you. It's very complicated. I mean, the The largest revenue stream that the Wicomico County gets is from its income taxes and its property taxes. And of course, tax differential refers to just property taxes only. So you have to kind of like untangle it all first. It's going to take a lot of work, I think, and probably another study. You have to evaluate. For the most part, the county's always taken the position that our property taxes, for the most part, goes to education. And education serves everyone. It serves everyone in the city. It serves everyone in the county. And that's where it is. And that's why we haven't felt there was much of a justification to review the tax differential. You have to look at other things too. The airport. Well, the airport is a county service, but the city uses it. Department of Corrections, county service. Not a duplication of service, a county service. And when you look at the number of inmates that go to the Department of Corrections, the larger majority probably come from the municipalities and not from the county. So what is that workload on the county as far as our resources are concerned? Recreation and Parks, the Health Department, Emergency Services, these are all services that Wicomico County supplies to its county residents and to its municipalities. So you got to untangle it. You have to know whether or not those funds are primarily coming from our income tax reserves or whether it's going to be coming from our property tax. We drew sort of an easy, quick line that said, hey, property taxes are around 60 million. It's about what we give the Board of Education. Let's call it a fair deal.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, everyone knows how I feel about taxes. Yes, we do need to review this, the tax differential. I believe more money back in our pockets is going to be better for everyone. I agree with John. This is going to take a little bit of time to untangle the mess of where the funds go and where they come from each individual person. This isn't going to happen like a switch on a wall. This is going to take a little bit of time for us to figure out, and we're just going to have to work on it.
So yeah, I at risk of repeating all the other past candidates here, the tax differential, the last study was done in over 10 years ago at this point. Needless to say, we do need to, at the very least, to readdress it, come back to the table, have a discussion, not just as a county, but really with all the municipality leaders, I think coming to the table with them. During my time door knocking, I have had this conversation quite frequently, specifically in Fruitland and Salisbury, so I do know that it's a concern for a lot of residents, and it should absolutely be addressed following the elections this November.
Tax differential is a topic that continues to be brought up in every election in recent history that I can think of. The reason that it's brought up is because the majority of the growth that takes place in Wicomico County takes place in the incorporated areas. And whether that is Pittsville, Fruitland, the city of Salisbury, Del Mar, Sharptown, or Hebron, or Mardella Springs, that is where your growth is. And that is the reason that we have an airport. That is the reason that we have economic development. That's the reason that we have a metro core. We should look at a tax differential. The folks that live in the incorporated areas live in Wicomico County.
Thank you. Our next question from Sandy.
This is a question for at-large candidate James Wynn. Mr. Wynn, a recent article in Delmarva Now says that you participated in a series of classes offered by the Institute on the Constitution, specifically a class called the Maryland Constitution course. You're the only council candidate who attended the course, thus the only candidate who will be asked about it. The course was taught by a man named David Whitney, a man who was once a chaplain for the League of the South, a group that has been labeled an extremely racist hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Why did you take a course that was taught by an avowed racist? And, if given a chance, would you take the course again if it was offered by the same group?
Well, fake news. I mean, we can all listen to everything that we hear on the internet. David Whitney is actually a really good guy. You know, he's a pastor. I've never had a hint of racism from the man at all. When I took the class, it was diverse. There was black, white, and it was a very educational course. Now I took it so I could educate myself on the position I was going to take. How many people on this stage here tonight took a Constitution class? How many people have read the Constitution? I took the Maryland and the federal state Constitution class. I can tell you right now that it's a lot to chew on, and taking that class was very, very educational. As far as my choice on taking it again, I have no problem taking it again. I have no problem with the instructor. I had no hint of racism at all from the instructor. The thought that that was actually an article is actually kind of disturbing. I mean, it was a what was it, a tweet or a Facebook post? I don't even know, but like, that's not real journalism. The guy who wrote that really should go back to journalism school and really think about his career choices, because that was fake news, and it's disturbing to me, and it should be disturbing to everybody. And who shouldn't take a constitutional class? They said it was an anti-government class. I don't know about you, but learning about your Constitution is a government class. So that's how I want to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for the at-large candidates again. As a member of the County Council, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making processes in our county?
Mr. Cannon?
It's always important. There we go. It's always important. We do have public hearings on a regular basis. Every single meeting is open to public comments for the public. In addition to that, though, we did learn a few things through code. It's funny how when there's these tragedies strike, there are always some silver linings, and we found some even with COVID. One of those is the fact that you can take advantage of the Zoom meetings, and so if we have requests that come in where someone can't come to the actual meeting, they can call in and we'll set it up so those people can watch and participate in public comments through the Zoom process. So they can do it virtually, which is, I think, a very great addition to the council's efforts. That being said, too, we always take emails. There's many versions. I don't think we exclude the public in any way. We try to make sure that we're very open, and we try to make sure that everyone knows, no matter what the circumstances might be, that we're looking for input. So again, there's public comments available all the time. We're expanding to Zoom meetings, and hopefully that'll satisfy everybody. I may have left a couple things out, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wynn?
What was the question?
In your role, if you're elected as a county council member, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our county?
Town hall meetings. I think that's a great way. Knocking on doors. I think I've learned more by knocking on people's doors than I have in an entire lifetime of going to events. I've knocked on probably 4,000 doors, and we could talk all night about issues. We don't have time for that, though. All the way down to public safety. We've got, we could talk about the water, we could talk about broadband, we could talk about the sewer, we could talk about the airport, we could talk about tax differential. But the real issues I'm hearing are public safety. What are we going to do about public safety? When I go in town and knock on doors, there's a lot of doors that say no trespassing. It's because we don't live in a safe town, I guess. But the ones that I do knock on, the people are saying, hey, look, what can you do for me? And I have to tell them, I'm like, we're working on public safety. The one thing we're going to do is make sure our police are always funded. And, these are issues that we don't hear about. By just knocking on doors is the best way I've ever learned about this community. And that's something I wish to continue. If we hold town hall meetings, that's fine. I think a lot of people are shy on giving answers at town hall meetings. And that's understandable, but when I go to someone's door and I tell them who I am, they are very, very warm and welcoming to me, and they want to know more about what I'm doing and how can I help them. And I turn it around and I say, how can I help you? And that's what I want to convey to everyone here tonight is, what can I do for you? And that's pretty much what I've taken this whole approach on this campaign.
Thank you. Ms. Houghton?
I have made sure that the community was at the forefront of this entire campaign from the very beginning. I have been door knocking for Lord knows how long at this point, And I can honestly say I've been praised on both sides of the aisle for the level of engagement that I've seen in this campaign. I've made it a priority to visit not only each district, but each corner. I have met with organizations, community leaders, municipality leaders from across the county. So, and Mr. Cannon made a fantastic point. We do offer public comment periods for all of our county meetings, but we need to be a little bit more proactive with that. And this goes back to, again, of not waiting for the community to come to us going out into the community. And James nailed it on the head. The simple door knocking has made it extremely clear to me in my day-to-day that the average citizen just doesn't know what's going on in this county. It's extremely frustrating to hear that we're doing some fantastic things in this county, and so many of our residents just aren't aware because of the lack of engagement. So really raising the constituent services that we see here at the county, I think would do wonders for just letting people know and getting them more involved in our local government.
Have you heard the saying, hopefully I get this right, there's three types of people. There's ones that didn't know it happened, there's the one that heard about it, and then there's the one that made it happen. And I think that, and actually I'm the guy right now that's trying to learn, hey, I didn't know how many great things were happening in our community. And going, again, to the corners of all of Wicomico County, I've actually learned a lot about my community. And the challenge that we have is really that communication. And during Rick Pollitt's tenure, we had a chief information officer. And we had a person that worked diligently to get the message out of the community, whether good, bad, or indifferent, to the citizens of Wicomico County. And I think that goes back to one of the core issues that we have as this county, and that is we have a human resources crisis right now, similar to our septic issues. We have a challenge. We can overcome that challenge. And a component of that is a chief information officer.
Thank you. Our next question, Mr. Dunn.
This is for District 1 candidates. Rent increases, as we've heard tonight, are becoming a real problem across the country and right here in Wicomico County. There's a looming housing crisis because of these rent increases, combined with the lack of affordable housing in the county. What can the county do about these housing and rental challenges?
We'll start with you, Mr. Cole.
So this has been brought up to me multiple times, just going out to dinner, talking to people, going around to events. Landlords are raising rent every single year. I understand why they're doing it, because they had to be able to afford to do upgrades to the residents. But what we need to do as a county, see maybe if we can put a rent cap on it. There's no reason that somebody in a one-bedroom apartment here in the city of Salisbury should be paying more for the rent of that apartment than I am for my mortgage out in the town of Hebron. So we do need to see if we can take a look at that, possibly do a rent cap for that, open up more chances for affordable housing to be built. To help the city of Salisbury has the We Are Home project going on. See if we can help that and get affordable housing here in the county.
I think education is the key. If I'm paying $1,200 a month in rent, we need to educate that person or persons who are paying that kind of money in buying a home. And we have organizations such as Habitat for Humanities, Salisbury Neighborhood Housing, as I mentioned yesterday. We need to educate people if they can buy a home. Many people are afraid to buy a home because they think about the maintenance. But these organizations have training to teach you how to maintain a home. So I think education of being a homeowner is very important, and making affordable home ownership. And way to begin that is through Habitat and Salisbury Neighborhood Housing.
Thank you. Our next question.
I'm going to ask this one of all of the candidates. If someone came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of public infrastructure in our county, new airport hangar, a road, a bridge, something like that, how would you evaluate whether or not that project was worth supporting and funding?
All of the candidates? Okay, would you like to go first, Jane?
I think I would entertain it, especially to see where it's going to be placed. Many projects like roads and infrastructure has been put through the black community. You hear about Georgetown back in the 60s when they put Route 50 through. It came through a neighborhood that was basically destroyed. When they did the bypass on Jersey Road, which I now live, several people had to move and be relocated because the road was there. I think they even had a lawsuit because it came again through a black community. I think we need to make sure that we don't, irregardless of the black community, make sure we put it where it won't involve people losing their homes and have to relocate. I think progress is good, but we don't need to have that trickle-down effect that's going to affect someone else.
So I agree with Ms. Shields. Placement is major with it. Make sure we're not kicking anybody out of their homes, tearing down neighborhoods to build this. But another thing that I'm going to look at is, one, see the benefit of the county. What is it going to bring to us financially wise? But also on finance, how are we going to finance it without hurting the citizens of the county? Are they planning on getting the funds donated, or are they planning on using funds that we already have? But that's questions that I would ask before approving any major development of anything.
Thank you. When considering a project for Wicomico, I would first consider the necessity and have an assessment as to why it's needed. And then when I would look at who would be benefiting from it, the number of citizens that would be benefiting, and how it would benefit Wicomico County. And then lastly, I would be looking at the cost. How would it be paid for?
I agree with Ms. Watson. We need to evaluate how it's going to affect the citizens of the county. Is it going to be positive? Is it going to be negative? And evaluate the benefit of it. Who's going to pay for it? Is it going to be taxpayer funded, grant funded, ARPA funded? And again, the last thing people need is another bill to pay. That's it.
I think in most any cases, you'd want to make sure, I guess, maybe a feasibility study was done from the individual, if they have a business plan. And I guess the responsibility as far as government body would be to direct those individuals to the resources that would be necessary for them to run a successful business, whether they go to the Tri-County Council of the Lower Eastern Shore and for resources for either employees or funding. That would be a big help. There are also many other agencies throughout Wicomico County where they help businesses. You know, Salisbury Chamber of Commerce right here, what a resource that is. Greater Salisbury Committee, another excellent resource. So, and PACE. So you have organizations in Wicomico County, and their purpose is to try to take new entrepreneurs. I mean, look what we have downtown. Salisbury University has an entire entrepreneur center. So there are agencies. It's just you have to make sure that you direct that individual to what is available in Wicomico County to make them grow their business and to develop the best business possible for themselves and for their company as a whole.
So the question was, I just want to make sure that I'm answering it correctly.
Yeah, if someone came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of public infrastructure in the county, the examples are airport hangar, road, bridge, how would you evaluate whether or not that project was worth supporting and funding?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we'd have to absolutely do a study in the area to make sure that that's going to be a healthy decision. We just can't just go ahead and shoot by the hip and hope it's right. So yeah, we're going to need to do a study, and we'll have to go, part of that study would be going into the neighborhood and knocking on doors and saying, hey, what do you think about this idea? I can't stress any more on that idea because, as Megan stated, not many people in this county really know what's going on. You can put a notice on a stick and put it in the driveway, but no one's going to read it because I know. Anyway, that would be the way to do that, is to do a study and then go into the neighborhood, whether it be me or someone that the council appoints, to go and ask, what do you think about this idea? Is this a good idea? Not everyone's going to agree on it, so we're going to have to tally and figure out if it's going to work or not, because that's just how this is going to have to work.
So first, I would really take a look at the scope and really see if the county really had the capacity for something like this. Really eyeballing the topic of infrastructure when it comes to that. So when we're talking about, schools or airports, the expanded development that would need, and currently, we are at capacity when it comes to, for instance, our water and sewer. And there are just certain projects that we're just not going to be able to take on until we address that. So really making sure we're not jumping the gun on certain development, and prioritizing that in that stage and making sure that we have everything that we need lined up before we go ahead and support projects like that.
Implement the plan. The plan right now is CIP, a capital improvement plan. We have capital improvement plans that we, as citizens, vote on through our representation on the council every year. Those are multi-year plans that we can follow and we can vote on annually. And I hope that we can have the input from the entire public and also the community on the capital improvement plans. One of the challenges that we have is sometimes the capital improvement plan does not align with some of our priority funding areas. So it could be in a different zoning, it could be in a different, on the wrong side of a line. There's lots of challenges that, unfortunately, are bureaucracy, paper pushing challenges that we have to typically work through on both executive and legislative side. So I think that we have a shot every year through our CIP, whether it is a public safety building, whether it is a school, whether it is a park, whether it is a pickleball court. We have those opportunities every year within our CIP.
Thank you. We have one last question for the evening.
This is the final question, candidates, and it is from the audience. We've heard some candidates tonight support increased spending on education, housing, water and sewer, yet also some of you are proposing to reduce taxes. How do you do that?
This is for all of the candidates. We'll start with Ms. Shaney.
I have to laugh because this is going to be new to me. I would study the budget. I would probably look and see what needs to, you have to study, I would have to study the budget. Education is very important to me, just as recreation and parks. I talk about ghost playgrounds that we have on the west side of Salisbury in Indian Village, where the parks, the particular playground is not being utilized. And one way is, instead of having the sheriff always come into the area to arrest people, I have an idea where the sheriff can put something in his budget to do like a community day or something to reach out to the community to make them feel safer and build a relationship with the community they're serving, because they are public servants. I think in order to, I would just have to redo the budget, look at the budget in each department and see where things can be taken out and see where it could be put back, where it could be utilized better. And until I do that, I wouldn't be able to answer the question as I would wish to be able to answer.
Thank you.
So, yeah, the main thing is reviewing the budget, make sure that all the departments are spending the money how they're actually supposed to, and possibly moving around the money. We have money in reserve right now. See if maybe we could tap into that and use all new income towards these new projects. Public safety is big for me. Education's huge in this county. We need to definitely look into that. But before we do that, like Ms. Shaney said, without sitting down and reviewing the budget, can't really answer that question. But it would be a goal of mine within the 4 years of getting the budget under control and increasing the spending for certain departments that we need.
As an elected official, I see one of my roles as being someone who is actively involved in community. And when you're actively involved and taken a part of, you build relationships. And in building those relationships, you develop a relationship, one of honesty and one of respect. We have real challenges ahead of us. And many of us know that sometimes when we're speaking, it sounds almost as if it's a wish list. But we know realistically that it's going to take funding to do it. So we, first of all, will need to set priorities. What are the most urgent matters for our county? And then we look at the availability of funding. So it's done in such a way that it does not more adversely affect those people that live in Wicomico County. And I believe when we establish relationships, then people can understand why it is necessary for us to make certain decisions and not to do some things as opposed to another. But until we're really ready to have that real dialogue and say, we can do this, we cannot do that, and explain why we can and why we can't, we will always be going back and forth with one another.
Thank you.
So I'm glad I got a budget question. I'm a fiscally conservative Republican. My wife says I'm so tight I squeak, which I think is an exaggeration. But I think the council does a great job putting the budget together, and we just need to look at it line by line. The water sewer master plan is not going to be fully paid for by the citizens of this county. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. That's just not possible. We need to get a grant writer for the county because there's funds out there. We just need to access them. That's it.
That's a good question. It's something that I think as a county we struggle with all the time. There's always that balance between the revenues that are coming in and the expenses that you have to be aware of. We constantly face that where not only in areas of the community, but just within county government itself, where one department will want more funding for their particular purposes. Well, you just have to weigh that and make sure that you make wise decisions. I think we've proven that with our strong revenue base that we have right now. I think the fiscal responsibility has proven itself. But if we do our job, we grow the economy as we're supposed to. We're supposed to grow the economy. That increases the revenue stream, and that allows us to be able to afford the expenses, the capital or operating expenses that people are going to ask for. And I've always said, if you grow the economy, you grow your tax base, you won't have to grow your you won't have to increase your tax rate. And I live by that, because that is our job. So much of government likes to say, we need the money, raise the taxes. But they are not doing their job. Their job is to create prosperity and to allow businesses to grow. And when you see economic prosperity, that's when you see an increase in your property taxes. That's when you see an increase in your income tax reserves. That's how you grow an economy. You don't tax it to death. In that being the case, you do increase your revenue. By increasing your revenue, you can afford those capital expenses. You can afford those additional operating costs. Thank you.
Was that 3 questions that was asked?
Got it. So, audience question. We've heard some candidates this evening support increased spending on education, housing, water and sewer, yet also are claiming that they can reduce taxes. How are you able to do that?
Well, one easy way to reduce taxes right now in Wicomico County is to increase the amount of houses. With the revenue cap, that'll actually lower our property taxes. I mean, that's a pretty quick way to answer that. But it also, another way is if we just, well, hold on, what was the other question? I'm sorry, there was 3.
That's all right. I'll have it memorized by the time we get finished.
So if you want to spend on the things that we want to spend to make the county better and more viable, how can we do that while also talking a lot about cutting taxes? So how can we do both?
Right. So, look, we need to go back to Annapolis. We need to go to DC. We need to talk to these people and say we need our money back. And the way we could do that is get a grant writer. Another way, we could talk to our delegation so they can help us out with that. Or maybe we can come down there in person, tell them we need our money. I mean, like I said earlier, we get taxed 60% of our money. I mean, why do they need all of this money? If you don't believe me, look at your paycheck. You know, it's a lot of money that gets taken out. All I'm saying is, how can we get some of that money back here in the county? And that's going to help with our projects like water and sewer. And if we can do that, that means we can lower our income tax, because then we don't have to tax everybody to death. If we can lower our taxes, which we can, we just need to go have a budget meeting and talk about what we need to do to lower it and see what numbers make sense for this county. If we can do that, we're going to attract more residents.
Thank you, Mr.
because-
Nguyen. Your time's up.
So, Mr. Gillis off mic actually said something that I would like to repeat, which is do more with less. There are ways for us to get creative. If we really want to increase our spending without raising taxes, we need to work alongside our municipality leaders, our organizations like the Greater Salisbury Committee, and find collaborative ways to get some of these projects done. And then the second way, most simply, is the grant writer position. We are losing out on an enormous amount of opportunities here in the county by not having one. It's been far too long since we've had the grant writer position filled, and that should be a major priority for the next county executive.
Good job. It's an extremely difficult question, and as Mr. Cannon said earlier, if we could have more than 5 minutes to discuss it, we probably would at least get it started anyway. The question has to do with revenue cap and also prioritizing funding. It's a difficult balance, to say the least. Our revenue cap, the reason that we continue to discuss it every election is because the formula has challenges. We can fix those challenges. We can look at a tax cap, and we can actually benefit from a rising assessable base. At this current time, as your assessable base rises, your tax rate goes down. While that could be considered a good thing, your governmental services and access to capital for your governmental services goes down. The reason that we are in the crises that we're in right now. I would also add that we could import dollars. We have partners that live and work in Wicomico County, such as Alicia Hastings right here, who now works for Senator Van Hollen's office. We have partners at the state, such as Carl Anderton in the back. We have the ability to import dollars from both state and federal agencies. And the way that we're going to do that is through an aligned vision that we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, folks, we are done with the questions for this evening. We're going to wrap up by giving each candidate 1 minute to make some final remarks. And we'll start and just go down the line again. Ms. Shields?
I love doing this. I love politics, believe it or not. Otherwise, I wouldn't be running. I think over the years, I've built partnerships both with the county and the city. I was on the city council for 10.5 years, and I built partnerships. I believe in transparency. And when I say transparency, I think we need to let the community know what's going to happen before it happens, not let them read it in the paper. And I keep thinking about DAF. Every time I saw that, what happened to those people, it just angered me a little bit. They're taxpayers, homeowners, most of them. I believe in educating the public, really before a decision is made. And I think when Brad talked about the capital improvement plan, I keep telling people are planning things while we're asleep. I think that what we need to do when we come with the capital improvement plan, we should make sure the public understands what it is. It's something not cut in stone, but it's something with the future, and we have to have a vision about our future.
Thank you, Ms.
Like
Shields.
I said, I enjoy this.
Mr. Cole?
So we talked about a lot tonight. I think you guys got to know a little more about all the candidates up here. I always get asked, District 1 is considered the majority minority district. Do I think I have a chance to representing everybody? I'm a firefighter EMT. My duty is to respond to you no matter what. As a councilman, that would be my duty as well. I want to be the voice of everybody, no matter what your race is, what your nationality is, sexual orientation, your sex, or your religion. So, yes, I might not be the same race as most people, but I believe that I can be a fresh young voice on the county council to represent everybody's voice.
Thank you. Ms. Watson?
I believe in community service, but I also believe in whatever I choose to do, that I commit myself to doing it. And in that commitment, I believe I have a responsibility to be equipped to do it, to learn all I possibly can to make the best and most wise decision while doing it. And over the years, being a mother and a grandmother, I decided at this point in my life that I'd much rather be a part of a solution when I look out in my community. And I believe in the fact that each and every one should have the right to thrive, and that I see Wicomico County as a hidden gem, a place where families can live and be prosperous, and where we can maximize our full potential.
Thank you.
So, thank you everybody for coming tonight. And my hat is off to every one of the political candidates, because to sign your name on that line and put yourself out there, especially for somebody like me who likes being in the background and not in front of these bright lights, I'm here to tell you it's the real deal. I'm fairly involved in this community, member of a number of organizations, hold a bunch of leadership roles, seem to be in decision-making positions about 20 hours a day, but I love it. My work week is 80 to 100 hours every week, but I don't consider it work because I love it. I love these people. I love this community. I don't even get paid for half the stuff I do, and I'm not looking to get paid. There's a lot of good things going on in this community, a lot of which are not well known, and proud to be a part of some of them. And where am I at?
Thank you.
That's it?
Yes.
I was going to pay it forward and give him some time.
You're a minute 7.
Okay.
Mr. Cannon?
That's okay. Again, John Cannon, I hope you know that by now, running for county council at large. I think anybody that knows me knows that I'm pretty straightforward, and I try to be very objective in how I approach anything. I also feel that you have to listen well to be effective, and you have to work hard. I believe I do that. I think you have to do that in order to be an effective representative. My background, I think I have the professional experience. I have the institutional knowledge, which is still a good thing. And I have excellent working relationships with leaders in government, education, industries, agricultural, or in the community as a whole. I think that from my perspective, we all want the same thing in Wicomico County. It doesn't matter what your political persuasion might be. We want excellent education for our kids. We want full funding for our sheriff's department and for our volunteer firemen. We want to make sure we have great roads, we want broadband, right? We want to make sure that we have a prosperous economy, great jobs to offer in this community. We want to make sure that we have an excellent quality of life. And I think that that's what Wicomico County has tried to help deliver, and that's certainly what I've tried to help deliver over these last few years. And I certainly would appreciate your support so that I could continue that for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wynn?
Yes, so my name is James Wynn. I am running for county council at large. The past 3.5 years is exactly why I'm running. I decided to make a difference in this country because I felt like my rights were getting trampled on. I decided, hey, let me run for county council. I feel like we can represent, I can help represent my locals right here in the county. I thought about running for delegate, but I realized that my views aren't very popular in Annapolis. So I figured, hey, I can help protect our rights here in Wicomico County. I want to grow your wealth. I want to grow our county. I want to move us forward. I want to take care of us. I want to do the right things for this county, and this is the only way I know how. I've been campaigning since Christmas. I don't have a life anymore. I used to go hunting and fishing all the time. Now I campaign all the time. And you know, I really like meeting the community, and this is an addiction now, I think. But I really want to get back to hunting and fishing, but this is more important. Our country is worth fighting for, and this is why I'm sitting up here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump in with Megan. I've had the privilege of mostly going last, so she can go last. My name is Brad Gillis. I'm running for Wicomico County Council at Large. I am a son of an educator. I am also a son of an entrepreneur. I'm a Parkside graduate at 2000. We are an employer of nearly 200 people with all of our businesses that we own and operate in Wicomico County. The reason that I'm running is for my boys. It's for my family. It's for my wife. It's for my community. My boys go to Pinehurst Elementary School. I want to see them proud of our community, and I believe that I can make a difference. Our family has been building community for generations, and I feel very confident that with a seat at the table, that I can continue that legacy. Thank you for your time, and look forward to serving.
Thank you.
I just want to thank all of the organizations that made tonight possible, Greater Salisbury Committee, Salisbury Chamber, PACE, and D3. These events are extremely important. You know, when we talk about elections being important, local elections are the most important ones. So I am one of the 4 candidates before you today running for County Council at Large. I graduated from Parkside High School, went to Salisbury University where I got my bachelor's degree in communication arts, and I minored a little bit in political science. So I do have a bit of an understanding of the Constitution there. So for the past 5 years, I have had the luxury of working in the renewable energy industry. It's been a fantastic opportunity and allowed me to deep dive into a lot of the issues that Wicomico County is facing: infrastructure, overcrowded schools, water and sewer plan. And, you know, I was really able to kind of put my hands into it and notice that we really don't have the leaders that I wanted to see here in this community. And I was for years trying to find a candidate to rally behind. And it dawned on me that I needed to be that candidate. I needed to be the change that I wanted to bring into this community. I have made it my mission to be out in every single district, every single corner of this county since day one. Like I mentioned, on both sides of the aisle, I've been congratulated on this. And this is not going to be something that continues at the end, just till the end of November 8th. I want to bring this transparency far beyond for years to come. I want you guys to know who I am, what I'm doing, and yep, thank you guys.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. The forum has closed. We're done. Thank the candidates, the panelists, and everyone in the audience. Thank you for coming out tonight to support.